Okay, good morning everyone, and Chazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Today's class is dedicated anonymously for the Refuah Shlema of all of Am Yisrael, and for the soldiers, and for all the hostages, and for the protection and safety of Kol Achenu Bet Yisrael, all the Jewish people, wherever in the world they may be. Be'ezrat Hashem, we should see Yeshuot, Nehamot, we should see salvation, we should see Yeshua, we should see Geula Kerovah, a full redemption for us and for all of Am Yisrael. Bekarov, Amen. Chazak Baruch to our sponsor. Hashem should bless you and your family with all the blessings of the Torah. Amen as well. Okay, my friends. Perashat Lech Lecha. As we are studying together the Ora Hayim HaKadosh. And let us begin first with noticing the aftermath of Avraham going down to Egypt. We saw yesterday how Avraham went down. We spoke a little bit about how Sarah was abducted. But nothing was done to her, and because of this, actually, she was blessed to have children afterwards. We learned a little bit how she was the first sotah. Remember that was yesterday's class. Ul Avraham hetiv ba'avura, and Avraham received a lot of good things because of this. The king gave him a lot of money and sheep because he thought that he was the brother. And also Lot became very wealthy. Well, Pasuk says, "Ve'Avraham kaved me'od." Avraham, after they left Egypt, they came back to Israel. They had a lot of cattle. And Gam Lelot, even Lot, who was there with Avraham, he benefited. He got a lot of cattle. The Pasuk says that at a certain point, Lo nasa otam haaretz lashevet yahdav. There was not enough grass, if you will, for the sheep to graze, to pasture. Okay, so over here they run into a financial problem. The business is not big enough to feed both of our families. Now there started to be a fight between Avraham's shepherds and Lot's shepherds. That's very interesting. Usually if there's a problem in the company, the problem is between the partners. But over here the problem was amongst the shepherds. And the question is why? Vayomer Avram Elot al na tehi meriba beni ubenecha ben ro'ai uben ro'echa ki anashim ahim anachnu. Avraham says, Lord, let us not fight, us and our shepherds, because after all, we are brothers. Comes the Ora Hayim. He wants to understand, what does it mean we are brothers? So he gives a few explanations. Look at this, really, really beautiful stuff. Number one, he says, Yitba'er al pi divrehim. We could understand this based on what our rabbis tell us. What was the fight exactly? Was it a financial fight? What was the fight? Actually, it wasn't a financial fight. It was a halachic dispute. Ki ro'eh Lot, Lot's sheep, Lot's shepherd, because there was not enough, greenery. Lot's shepherd, hayu meshalchet sonam vero'im b'sdot acherim. They allowed their shepherds, the sheep, to graze in other people's fields. Lot's shepherds. Okay? Beta'anat, and what excuse did they have? It's asur, it's forbidden. You're not allowed to steal. How do you steal? You're not allowed to steal. You can't eat off of someone's property. No, they had a ta'ana. You see, they had a claim. This is, by the way, something that we have to realize. We'll get to the claim in a second. Okay, let's just see the claim first. Ki ha'aretz le'Avraham. First of all, they said, God promised the land to Avraham. Velot ben ahiv yorsho. And you should know, Lot is the nephew, and he's going to inherit Avraham. And Avraham doesn't have any kids else to inherit too. And therefore, look at this. Because God promised the land to Avraham, and Avraham doesn't have children, so Lot's going to inherit it. So it's as if it's ours. So we're allowed. We're allowed. You understand? This is how they justified their theft. My friends, this is something that we often do. Every one of us on different levels. Right? Raise your hand if you steal. Anyone on this chat steal? Anyone? No, we don't steal, right? We're not thieves. Right? However, if you ask people, so why do you cheat on your taxes? Why are we dishonest when it comes to our taxes? Why do we not declare everything? We don't steal. Right? Because we do something that's called justification. We justify, we rationalize. We say, no, I'm not a thief. I don't steal. You kidding me, Rabbi? I'm not a thief. I'm a straight guy. The government's different. You understand? We do that. And this, by the way, Ramchal, Mesilat Yesharim, he gets to his third trait. First trait is Zehirut. Zehirut means to be watchful and to be careful, not to sin. Then there's another trait called Zerizut. That's to be swift, to go, to run, to do good things. Then there's Nikiyut. The third trait is Naki. To be clean means not only to not sin, but to even remove from myself the desire, the temptation. Because so long that there's a temptation, I have the ability to start playing and creating loopholes in my head of why it's allowed. And I'll start allowing even forbidden things. This is what it happens if I have bias. If I have a desire, I'll start creating reasons, excuses of why it's allowed. So I never speak bad about people. But what are you talking about? Every time I'm with you, you talk about bad. I want to talk about bad. He says, no. That's not bad. We come up with all of the reasons. It's for toilet, it's constructive, that guy's a bad guy, you're supposed to, it's a mitzvah to talk about them, right? So although we're righteous, we don't ever talk gossip. We don't speak gossip, but we do. And we do because we explain and we have excuses. And Lot's shepherds over here, we don't steal. But let me tell you why we're stealing. In this case, it's allowed because, understand? Because God promised the land to Avraham, and Avraham doesn't have inheritors, and we are the heirs, and we're going to receive it, and therefore we're not even stealing. It's our land that we're allowed to eat from. Okay? So this is what Avraham says. Avraham saying to Lot, that's what it means. Let us not fight, ki anashim ahim anachnu. Not let us not fight since we're brothers. Rather, let us not fight, and which the fight is based on the fact that we're brothers. You understand? Right? Since we're brothers, there's a fight here. The fight is because the shepherds of Lot feel entitled to take the land, since Lot is the relative of Abraham and the heir. You understand? This is what he's saying. Abraham is saying, let there be no strife between us based on this statement that we are family and you're going to inherit me. Okay? And therefore, the word ki, right, doesn't mean since we're brothers, but that we're brothers. Let us not fight over the fact that we're brothers. Okay? Beautiful. This is number one. Odid ba'er. Furthermore, he says, based on a pasuk in Tehillim, look at this pasuk. Pasuk says, Teshev ba'achicha, tedaver beben imcha. Okay? Pasuk saying in Tehillim that if you ever speak out against your own family, if you ever fight with your own family, you should realize that even if you come out victorious, you're really hurting also yourself. Right? You never walk away clean when the fight is within the family. Everyone gets dirty, everyone gets filth, everyone gets a reputation. People talk about both sides at the end of the fight. And therefore Avraham says, since we're brothers, Lot, we can't fight. Even if it ends up being that I win, even if the judge goes on my side, even if you're wrong and I'm right, even if I'm right and you're wrong, whoever wins, we're both losers. Because in a fight with family, both sides walk away soiled. Okay? If we go in front of the judges, the Kanaani or the Perisi judges, who's going to make one of us look bad and wicked, really the other one of us will also end up getting a blemish. When there is a family feud, the attacker and the victim both suffer in the end, since they are relatives. Okay, we will both suffer, Lot, and therefore let us not fight, because after all, since we're family, we're both going to walk away damaged. Okay. Or did say another interpretation? Since we're family, Avraham says to Lot, En Lot velo ro'av mitnahagim bekavod atzarich le'Avraham. Look at this. Avraham is telling Lot, and he's really, to us, we should realize he's talking to, that there's a reality that since we're family, they're not treating Avraham with the respect that he deserves. Behoshvam, because they think, ki en efresh, we're family. There's familiarity. That's where maybe the word familiar comes from. Familiar comes from the word family. Maybe. I don't know. I just made that up. Could be. When there's family, I'm familiar, and therefore I don't have to respect you because we're brothers. We're two peas in a pod. Why should I? You find this a lot of times in family where one brother could be a very big, maybe let's say rabbi or someone important in the community, an activist, and everyone respects them except for the siblings. Because a lot of times the siblings know, this is my brother, why should I respect you? We grew up together, we were both, in the same bathtub, you know what I mean? We ate from the same plate. Well, I'm going to respect you now. There's a certain lack of respect that family gives to their own family sometimes. Okay? And you should realize this is a fact of life. A lot of times people will respect you, your own family won't respect you. Right? Because I know you already. I know you. I should respect you. I grew up with you. We're boys. Sometimes we're too comfortable with family. Right? And actually it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Sometimes it's even between husband and wife. When I really know my wife, when I get too comfortable with my wife, that's also not a good thing. Right? You shouldn't get too comfortable with anybody. Always make sure to maintain an element of respect, an element of fear, an element of awe. Don't get too comfortable. Not with Hashem, not with your friend, not with your wife. Love is very good, very important. Love. But if you let love cross the line, familiarity breeds contempt. Ever heard of that line? Okay? If I get too familiar with you, it could create actually a lack of respect in a not good way. You find many times rabbis can be very successful in doing outreach and in bringing the most estranged, far out people back to Hashem and Judaism, but they can't have any success with their own children. There's a certain wall that exists with family. And Abraham says this to Lot. Right? You guys think since we're family, there's no difference between me and Abraham and Lot. If you weren't related, the whole world respected Abraham. As we read the paragraphs. So Abraham says to Lot, listen, I realize that there's obviously a disconnect here. And it's probably ki anashim achim anachnu. It's because we're family that you don't respect me like everyone else respects me. And that's okay. It's the reality. So maybe it's best if we separate our ways. Okay? Fine. So Lot, this is Abraham's, this is his offer to Lot. Okay? He suggests, I think, that it's good that we separate. What does Lot say? Lot says, no problemo. No problem, my friend. Uncle, no problem. You got it. And Lot separates. He goes his own way, and he winds up in a city called Sodom. Now, right afterwards, there is a world war that takes place. 4 countries versus 5 countries. 4 kings versus 5 kings. And the 4 are victorious. The 4 defeat the 5. And one of those 5 was Sodom. In Sodom is Lot. So the 4 take all the citizens of the 5 countries captive, hostage. And of course, one of the people that's taken is Lot. So, Vayavo Apalid Vayaged Avraham, this man comes and tells Avraham that his nephew Lot is taken captive, and Avraham goes out with his 318 men, and he frees his captive. Someone sent me yesterday something very, very cool, that Avraham was born in 1948, and if you do the math, he is, I don't know how accurate this is, but they were suggesting when God says Lech Lecha, Avraham is 75 years after 1948, his nephew Lot was taken captive. And if you look at current events, 75 years after 1948, which is now, this year, this month, they went in, they took Jews captive. And like Avraham went in and he freed them, Bezat Hashem will be zochet to free all our captives, all our hostages from Gaza. That was something that gave me a little bit of chills and goosebumps when I saw that. Again, I don't know if it's 75 exactly, because it looks like Avraham went down, unless you say it happened that year right away, then 100%, then the math does add up. But either way is very cool stuff, right? So Avraham now has information. His nephew Lot is taken, and he's got to go free him. Okay. He goes out with 318 men, and he wins. He defeats the 4 empires, the 4 kings. And he frees all the prisoners of war. Okay. Then all of a sudden there's a very interesting pasuk. Look at this pasuk. Pasuk 18 of chapter 14. Malkitzedek Melech Shalem. All of a sudden, everyone's coming out to greet Avraham and congratulate him on his victory. And one of the people that come to greet him is Malkitzedek. Interesting name, Malkitzedek, the king of Shalem. Our rabbis tell us we have a tradition that this man, Malkitzedek, is actually Shem, the son of Noah, Shem. And he was the king of Shalem. Shalem, what does it sound like, Shalem? Sounds like Yerushalayim, right? Yerushalem. Actually, Yerushalayim is two names in one. It's the name of Shalem, which we read right here. And it's also a name that Avraham called it later on, Yireh. Yireh, when he saw the Akedat Yitzchak, he saw the cloud over the mountain. Which mountain? It was this mountain of Jerusalem. He said, Yireh, Yeru Shalem. That's how it became given that name. There's a lot more on this. But either way, this man, Malkitzedek, comes out to greet Avraham. Malkitzedek Melech Shalem, Hotzi Lechem. He comes with bread and with wine. And he hands Avraham some bread and wine. Very interesting pasuk. Don't know that this needs to be written here. There's so much other things in the Torah that we need to know. More important than this, what did Avraham eat? Post-war, what did he feast on? Was it bread? Was it wine? Cheese? Who cares? But the pasuk says, no, he brought him bread and wine. He brought him bread and wine. And it seems that the Torah needs to tell us to us. And the ta'am, why is this here? Why is this here? Why is it telling this to us? So Or HaHayim again comes and he gives a few explanations. First, number one, Lehagid Sheva HaTzadikim Ma Benam Leben HaRasha'im. We're coming to compare and contrast how Malkitzedek reacts to how the king of Sodom reacts. Remember, Sodom was one of the defeated kings. And Avraham comes and not only rescues his nephew, but by doing so, he's also rescuing Sodom and all of the people of Sodom and the king of Sodom. And you would think Sodom, the king who has skin in the game, he's the guy. He was just freed by Avraham. You would think he would have the utmost respect and appreciation and he would kiss his feet. And what does Sodom come out? He comes to greet Avraham with nothing. Rekam, empty-handed. And Shem, Malkitzedek, who had no skin in the game, this wasn't his battle, he was safe in Jerusalem, he comes out with bread and wine. And look at the difference between the Tzadikim and the Resha'im. Hagam she'elav yehuyav la'agvir b'nei Avraham. You would think that Sodom would have all the obligation to come out and greet him with a big thank you. V'shem ha'tzadik mebli hayuv. And Shem has nothing. You see over here, my friends, a trait called appreciation. Appreciation. Hakarat hatov. And the Resha'im don't have that. And I think, in times like this, especially with what's going on in Israel, you realize which people have this trait and which people don't. And you see certain countries that when they were going through natural crisis, disasters, Israel was on the front line helping them with aid, there for them, helping them, right? You see certain communities that the Jews help them get their freedom, the Jews help them get their rights, marching with them front and center. And then just a few decades later, when we are on the victim end and we need help, we look around and there's no one there greeting us. All those people that we helped, we turn around, gone, missing. But don't worry, my friends. Those guys, what happened to Sodom? He got destroyed. Nothing good comes out of people like that. So we need not be worried that we're seeing this today. This is nothing new. This is as old as man, as old as Judaism. The first Jew, Avraham, the father of Judaism, he experienced this lack of appreciation. Sodom comes out, no thank you, no todah, nothing. But it's okay. We shouldn't be fazed. We have Hashem, we have Yerushalayim, we have Malkitzedek, we have the Tzadikim. That's all we need, my friends. Okay, that's answer number one. Okay, you like that answer? Okay. Number two, or another meaning. Our rabbis tell us, Kiyem Avraham Avinu afilu eruve tavshilim. Avraham Avinu kept the whole Torah. Okay? Our rabbis tell us that Avraham kept the Torah, although it wasn't given yet. He was privy to the information, to the commandments. He had through prophecy, through Ruach HaKodesh. He knew about the commandments before they were given, and Avraham kept them. Avraham kept the whole Torah, the entirety of the Torah. This is what Avraham did. So, he kept not only the Torah, he kept even the Rabbanans, our rabbis tell us. Even the rabbinical enactments that needed to. Now again, this is a very, very heavy topic, a deep topic. Did he keep the actual commandment? Did he keep what the commandment was meant to symbolize? The concept of the commandment? But either way, he kept the mitzvot according to our rabbis. Take it literally, take it however you like, symbolically, but he kept the Torah. And therefore, our pasuk is telling us, Ki Avraham sar vegadol umechubad b'nei hakol haya. Avraham was very respected. Uksheyatza likrato melech Sedom. So when Sedom came out to greet him, min hastam, obviously you would imagine that this is a new answer, not connected to the previous answer. In the previous answer, Sedom was an ingrate. This is now a new answer. That Sedom actually did want to come out and greet Avraham with a thank you basket. However, Uetzad ki Avraham yifrosh mima'achalam. But if Avraham kept the Torah, that means he also kept the laws of wine of goyim. You got to be very careful, my friends. One of the things that's not kosher is wine of goyim. We cannot have wine of the non-Jews. Not only wine, but even vinegar. Vinegar of the non-Jews. Not okay. Not allowed. Vinegar comes from wine. A lot of times a person goes to a restaurant thinking it's vegan, it's okay, but you got to be very careful because they have vinegar. Vinegar is not kosher if it's from wine. So you could have even vegan. There's no meat, Rabbi. There's no cheeses. There's nothing dairy. It's a parv restaurant. Well, yes, it's parv, but there's wine. Wine is not kosher. Vinegar, not kosher. Okay? And besides the fact that sometimes they're also adding dressings and things like that are not necessarily fully parv. Okay? Also, there's bugs. So a person has to be very careful. But either way, Avraham Avinu, the king of Sedom, wants to give him some wine. He wants to give him some bread. However, Avraham would not eat it. Why? Pat shel goyim. You can't have bread of a non-Jew. You can't have wine of a non-Jew. Lazeh, therefore, the king of Sedom, nithakim. The king of Sedom, therefore, cleverly arranged, sheyaseh shurat ha'achila yedei ne'eman. He asked the Jew, the righteous Shem, hey Shem, could you give me some bread, some kosher bread, some kosher wine, and deliver it to Avraham on my behalf? Okay? And therefore, this is what the pasuk is doing here. Right after Sedom greets Avraham, it says, by the way, Malkitzedek comes with bread and wine. Who sent that bread and wine? So the second answer we're reading now, that actually it was Sedom that sent it to give it to Avraham on his behalf, but he couldn't touch it because he's a non-Jew, he's an idolater, and therefore he asks Malkitzedek to make it on his behalf. That's answer number 2. Okay? Interesting answer. Again, we're getting over here a very wide variety of answers. This answer makes him look like a very good guy. The other answer, he's a very bad guy. Okay. Od yitzeh. Another interpretation. Why does he say to Avraham, why are we talking about over here Malkitzedek? Okay? Malkitzedek. What is that doing here? So he says to understand this, we have to fast forward. Okay? We have to fast forward to Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Look at this, my friends. Let's study together. Pasuk Chaf Aleph. After Avraham takes all of the booty, the spoils, Vayomer Melech Sedom, king of Sedom, comes to Avraham and says, Ten li ha-nefesh ve'harechush kach lach. Says, Avraham, do me a favor. You take the money, you give me the people. Okay? I'll make you a deal. So ask the Orach Chaim, who in the world does this guy think he is to say to Avraham, I'll let you keep the money. What do you mean, let me keep the money? I'm the winner. I own it. You can't give me permission to keep it. I don't need your permission. I have it already. It's like imagine you walk down the street and a guy walks over and says, you know what? Do me a favor. I'll let you keep your wallet, but just give me $1, please, for tzedakah. I'll let you keep your watch. Just let me keep it. It's mine. You don't have to let me keep it. I already own it. You say to someone something like that if it's this debatable, if it's a machloket, If there's a dispute, so you say, okay, I'll make you a deal. I'll make you a deal. But you don't make someone a deal when they have all rights. You don't make a deal with someone. When you're coming with nothing, there's no deal to make. A deal is when there's part me, part you, we make a compromise. But when it's all me, it's my company. You imagine you go to a guy, you're asking tzedakah, you give the guy $5, he says, listen, I'll make you a deal. Give me 10. What do you mean you make me a deal, give me 10? Or what? What's the other side of the deal? It's my money. I'm giving you $5. You can't make me a deal that I should give you 10. You understand? It's very funny. This is the Orach Chaim's question. And he says, look at this, something, my friends, that we have to get used to, especially if we're going to study the Orach Chaim this year. Okay? Now, Orach Chaim is going to answer this based on a halacha. He does this often, as I'm noticing, as I'm going through the commentary. We're all the way up to Perashat Lech Lecha. But he answers this with a halacha. And he does this with many things. He deviate now for a few pages, talk about a certain law, and then come and bring it back. My friends, let's dive into some halacha, okay? I know this is a Perashat class, but actually there's an interesting halacha. Look at this halacha. It's brought down also in the Gemara, Masechet Baba Kama, and also it's brought down halacha in the Rambam. Let's see it over here. The Rambam, we'll read it from the Rambam. This is a Jewish law. Shayara shehaita, and by the way, I love this halacha. I'll tell you why I love this halacha, okay? I'm going to give you, my friends, actually, a real case that once upon a time happened, okay? I want all of you to be the judge, and feel free to text or comment on this video what you think the law should be, okay? I'm going to give the answer, but feel free to add your opinion. Let's say, this is a true state case, by the way. It's not a let's say. It happened once upon a time. Anyone from Brooklyn knows Bagel Hole by the name, bagel store by the name of Bagel Hole, okay? If you've ever been to Brooklyn, you know Bagel Hole. Bagel Hole, great bagels, okay? And it's located, I think, on Avenue K and Coney Island. Okay? Fine. Guy's driving, he wants to pick up a bagel. True story. How many times did I say that so far? True story, okay? He's driving and he parks. He wants to park next to the store. There's no parking. So he sees that he could double park, and run in and get his bagel and come back out. Okay? So this is exactly what he does. He double parks, he looks for the cop, there's no cop, he runs in, it's going to take a whole 1 minute to get his bagel. The second he runs into the store, who turns the corner? The police car, the traffic, right? The ticket giver, okay? The ticket maid. She comes by and she starts writing tickets. And she sees a double parked car. She's about to give the guy a nice ticket for $130 or whatever it costs. Okay? There's a guy who was parked legally, sitting in his car, right next to the double parked car. He sees this whole story taking place. He sees the traffic lady coming. He sees the guy double parked who ran in the store. He realizes the guy's about to get $100 and something ticket. So this guy, Tzaddik, decides, you know what? Let me help out my fellow Jew who I never met before. But let me help him out. He gets out of his car and he goes to stand next to the double parked car, showing as if it's his double parked car and he's the owner, so she wouldn't give it a ticket. Okay? But he, on his parked car, since before he was sitting in it, he didn't pay the meter. So now because he left, he went to this guy's double parked car. So now his own car got a $35 ticket. Now he knew he's probably going to get a ticket. There's a chance. But he said it's still worth it because the guy was going to get 130. I'm going to get 35. Again, the numbers, I'm off on the numbers. It doesn't matter. Whatever the numbers are. I'm saving the guy a much bigger ticket. So he gets a small ticket for a meter. And right? All of a sudden the lady leaves. 10 seconds later, the guy comes out of the car, out of the bagel store with his bagel in hand. He looks at his car. He says, oh, phew, no ticket. Baruch Hashem. The man looks at him. He says, Habibi, you didn't get a ticket because I saved you. I stood here saving you. He says, wow, thank you. Let me give you a hug. He says, don't give me a hug. Just do me a favor. Give me $35 because I got a ticket because I was saving you. This is the case. And the guy who got the guy who was saved, the double park guy, he looked at him and he said, listen, I really thank you for saving me a ticket, but I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't ask you to save me. So as we say in English, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not paying you your $35. I didn't ask you to do it. You chose to do it. Who knows? Maybe she wouldn't have seen my double parked car. I'm not paying your ticket. This is what the guy said. Okay? And they went to Beit Din. Okay? It's a few dollars. I don't know if it's worth going to court over. But I love the case. It's a good question. What would you guys say? Does the guy who was double parked have to compensate and pay the guy who was parked who got a ticket for him? Okay? This is an interesting question that came up. And you think, yes, no, he doesn't have to, but he should. What's the halakha? Yes or no? And the truth is, the halakha actually is a classic black and white Mishnah in the end of Masechet Baba Kama. This case happened not with a car and not with a meter maid and not with a ticket, but it happened many, many years ago. The Mishnah discusses this exact case. How could it be? They didn't have tickets back then. They didn't have cars. Look at this case. You ready? And this is brought down just one halakha above the one that I want to bring to you. Again, the halakha that I just said is related to what we're going to bring in a minute. But it's just, I think it's a very cool case. I don't really have the platform to share this case with you, but it brought itself up here, so I decided to share it. But here it is. Look at this interesting halakha. Again, case in the Mishnah, brought down in the Rambam. One guy's walking with a jar of dvash. Okay? With a jar of honey. Okay? Another guy's walking with empty jars. Okay? One guy's walking with honey. One guy's walking with empty. Or, better yet, he's walking with wine. Okay? So you got the case? One guy's walking with barrels of honey. One guy's walking with barrels of wine. The barrel of honey gets a crack. And the honey starts to ooze out. Now, honey, in this case, is more expensive than wine. Okay? More expensive. So the honey starts pouring out, and the guy with the wine says, you know what? Let me save my friend his honey. So he pours out his wine, and he saves the honey. But by pouring out his wine, he incurred a loss, a financial loss, let's say $20. But he saved the guy his honey, which was worth $100. You see the case? Does the guy have to pay him? This is literally the case, my friends, that we just brought of Bagel hole. Okay? Same exact case. And the halakha says that the guy has to warn him and say, I'm doing it. You agree to reimburse me or not? And if he says yes, then he has to reimburse him. And if he says no, then okay, then leave your honey and let him fall on the floor. But he has to say it. Okay? However, what if the guy's not around? Because the case of Bagel hole, you couldn't say it to him. The guy's all the way in the store. There's no time to go and tell him. So if he didn't have time to say it, then there's an assumption that he would want that to happen, and therefore he has to compensate him for the ticket. Okay? This is the halakha. Okay? Very interesting halakha. Let's go to a similar halakha. Okay? Shayara shehayta holechet bamidbar. You have a caravan that's going through the desert, and all of a sudden these gayas utrafa, okay, come along, these thieves, and they start to cause problems. Okay, they start taking everyone and everything. Okay, so raiders come and they start to plunder the caravan. So if the people in the caravan, let's say now someone comes and saves them, who does all of those possessions now belong to? Does it belong to the one who saved, or does it go back to the owners? So if the victims couldn't have saved themselves, then the guy, he is now the owner. The original owners had what's called yeush. What does yeush mean? They gave up hope of ever retrieving, right? If a guy comes and steals a watch from you, imagine a guy comes and steals a watch, okay? And 5 seconds later, after he steals it and he starts walking away, in your head, you know you're never getting that watch again. And then all of a sudden a cop comes and says, hey, give it back. So the guy takes the watch and he gives it to the policeman. Who is the real owner of that watch? Is it yours or is it the policeman's? You hear the question? Interesting question, no? You say, what do you mean? It's my watch. But you gave up on it. The second the guy stole it, you knew you're not getting it back. You got very lucky that a second later a policeman showed up. But since you gave up, it's not your watch. So it belongs now to the policeman. Now if he wants, he can give it back to you, but he doesn't have to. Okay? Good. However, he says over here, what if there's a slight chance that you could get it back yourself? Could, right? If you could get it back, let's say you are someone who's a soldier and you know how to fight. So you gave it to the guy, you gave him your watch, but you knew the second he turns around, you're going to get it back from him. So you never gave up hope. So in that case, if the policeman comes and gets the watch for you, then you have to, the policeman has to give it back because you never had a yeush. Okay, I think this is sensible halakha. It makes sense. Okay, right? Does this make sense? I think it makes sense. Okay? Fine. However, if the guy says, right? If it's a big stretch for you to save it, you could save it, but it would be very hard for you to save it. Then in this case, im amar le'atzmi ani matil, if the guy who's coming to save says, listen, I'm saving it, but I want you all to know I'm saving it and I'm going to keep it, then he gets to keep it. But if he doesn't make that declaration, he has to give it back. Okay? So there's three cases. Case number one is that there's no shot you're getting your watch back. In that case, the saver automatically keeps it for himself. Case number two, the other side, the other extreme, is that it's very easy for you to get it back. You didn't even give up. It's clear that you're not giving up. In that case, even if the guy who saves says, by the way, I'm saving it for you, I'm saving it for me, you don't have to give it to him because you could just say back, listen, dude, I didn't ask you, it was mine. Case number three is that you could save it, but it would be very hard for you to save it. So in this case, then what you say matters. If you say nothing, you have to give it back. If you say I'm saving it, but only for me to keep, and the guy didn't object, then you get to keep it. Okay? So this is a halakha that's brought down in the halakha in the Rambam. And over here comes along the Ora Hayim and says, now we could maybe understand our episode. Savar Melech Sedom, the king of Sedom, is under the right? He's under the delusion that Hu lo nityaesh. He says, I never gave up. I never gave up. We were still in this war. There was still some time to fight. There was still game to play. There's still a few minutes on the game clock. I never gave up. And therefore, right, I could have gotten my money back, my people back. I didn't ask you, Avraham, to come and save me. You chose to save me. I didn't ask for it, and I could have done it on my own. Uksha'alach Avraham lehatzil. So when Avraham went to save the people, so he says, but you never said out loud that you're saving it for yourself. I never heard you. I have to hear you say it and not object. I never heard you say it. You understand? And therefore, you really saved, it comes back to the original owner. Only thing that you could take maybe is what's yours, which is Lot. Lot is your nephew, he's yours, you could keep Lot. But everything else is really mine. And therefore, the king of Sodom is under the assumption that he really could have saved his own people and his own property and his own possessions. And by the way, the Midrash says this, look at this. It says, Vayetze Melech Sodom, the king of Sodom comes out to greet Avraham. Hitchil mekashkesh biznavo, he started wagging his tail. And he says to Avraham, Ata yarata lekivshana esh, you were saved from fire, but I was saved from hemar, I was saved from a tar pit. I'm as great as you, Avraham. Miracles happened for you, miracles happened for me, and I could have saved myself here. I didn't need you to save me. So therefore he comes and says, Avraham, really, you think that it's yours, right? And we can now go back and understand our pasuk. What made the king of Sodom think that Avraham thought that it was his possessions? Because if you look at the pasuk, it says that Avraham gave Malkitzedek, this is going back to this guy, Malkitzedek, Avraham gave him ma'aser. Avraham gave him a tenth. Imagine all of the plunder that he saved from the war, all of the possessions amounted to $1 million, make believe. He gave Malkitzedek 100,000. So the king of Sodom now sees this and says, whoa, Abraham's giving 100,000, 10% of $1 million. That means that he feels that he's the rightful owner of all this $1 million worth of possession. So he comes and says, therefore he says, Avraham, listen, it seems to me that you think that you should own all of this. I disagree. I think I'm the owner because I could have still fended for myself. I could have fought. But you know what, Avraham, I'll make you a deal. Now you understand. I'll make you a deal. You keep the money. I'll take the people. Now we answered our question. Who does the king of Sodom think he is to make Avraham a deal? The answer is, he was based on this assumption of the halakha. That Avraham, that since he never gave up yet on fighting, Avraham needed to have declared out loud, I'm going to fight, but I'm going to keep it for myself. And since he never made that declaration, then the money goes back to Sodom, to the original owner. Okay? However, says, and we'll end with this, Hua pahut ta'ehaya. Obviously, he was very mistaken. Where was the king of Sodom mistaken? He says, Ki mushlalhu mehatzlacha. It was already impossible for him to rescue. The Gemara's case, the Rambam's case, is only a case where the distinction is where they were plundered and they ran off before the people could even defend themselves. So in that case, we have to see, they could claim, I still could have fought, I still could have won. In that case, the victim has an argument to get back his watch, his money. But here, the guy, you lost. You lost the war. What do you mean you're going to come back? You can't say that anymore. You already lost. You are the epitome of a loser. And therefore, you for sure gave up. You can't come now after the fact and say, oh, I never gave up. You did give up. You lost. The guy took your watch. You lost. You're done. And therefore, that's why, by the way, what does it mean he came wagging his tail? Says the Ora Hayim, because he didn't have a head to wave, to nod, because he already lost his head. The guy already lost the war. He's a loser. He doesn't have even a head. All he has left is a tail to wag. You understand? And therefore, this is what our rabbis are insinuating when they're saying this, that he was wagging his tail. And therefore, Avraham says, my friend, I'm sorry. You do not have a right to any of this money. It's all my money, and I can give 10% to whoever I want. Now, at the end, Avraham ends up giving back the money even to Sodom. And he says, you know what? I'll give you back the money, but I cannot give up on the ma'aser. Ma'aser belongs to Hashem. The 10%, what I choose to do with, is not my choice. 10% must go to God. After, we could talk about the remainder of the money. If it goes to you, it goes to me. But this is the give and take, the back and forth between Avraham and the king of Sodom, touching on this interesting halakha over here of this case. Okay, but either way, we'll stop over here, my friends. Have a wonderful, blessed day, and hopefully see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.